Welcome back tuning into today's video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the next 8 to 10 days. In today's video, we'll be taking us up to around the 20th of June, so into the second half of the month. It looks like high pressure is going to be ruling the roost, but exactly where that high pressure is sitting next week going to be critical as to whether it gets all that warm or whether we actually get some chillier air coming around from the north and the northeast. Before I get on with the 8 to 10 day video, I just want to mention we advertising those video ads on my pages at gazworthies.com, and if you play on the video ad, you'll be supporting gazworthies.com. Thanks very much for doing that. So we're going to start off with the 500 bit of our height anomaly charts for 8 to 10 days time. As I say, taking us up to the 20th of June. We've got the ECMWF here on the left, the GFS is over on the right. 500 millibars, 80,000 feet is where we've got weather taking place in the atmosphere, because we've got high pressure and low pressure being moved around by the jet stream running above. So, as I say, this is the mean flow of the 500 millibar flow for 8 to 10 days time. And the ECMWF is showing we've got a bit of a ridge here, but it's more or less out to the west and the northwest of the country, connect up to this very large ridge that is sitting up over Greenland and just into eastern parts of Canada. But the main core of that high pressure, although it is ridging into British Isles, actually centred just to the west of the northwest. We've got a bit of a trough of low pressure as well, setting up over Scandinavia. It's not desperately unsettled, that, but it's not particularly warm, and it is on the verge of either turning unsettled from the northeast, where that trough is over Scandinavia, or possibly even from this low pressure in the Atlantic, which could start to ride underneath this high pressure that's up to the northwest, and that could start to attack us from the Atlantic Ocean. So the ECMWF is alright as far as it goes, but it could very easily turn unsettled. Whereas the JFS here is much more settled. The high pressure is pretty much centred over the top of the British Isles, the area of above average height, so it's mainly dry, and with the high pressure in virtually over the top of the country, would be quite warm as well on that sort of scenario. So definitely the GFS is the warmer, more settled, more high pressure dominated of the two models this morning, but both of them are okay, but just that the ECMWF has that high pressure in a slightly difficult position for us, because it's very much out to the west and the northwest of the country. Have a look at the charts, how they verify in terms of the actual charts in a moment. Let's just have a look at the London ensemble. This is the temperature and precipitation ensemble from the GFS model, and we're going to deal with the temperatures first of all. The red line here is where we should be at this time of the year, and we see most members of the ensemble are actually a little bit above average, and likely to stay a little bit above average if the GFS is right through towards the end of the month. Actually, we go on this ensemble, we go up to the 25th, 26th of June, and we're largely above average throughout the period. Not desperately hot by any means, but certainly above where we should be. Although, round the second half of the month, 19th, 20th, some members of the ensemble are going a little bit below average. They're in a minority, but there are some of them that do that. And no doubt those ones that are going a little bit below average are sort of in the same position as the ECMWF with the position of that high pressure. Now, we're in for quite a dry period as well by the look of it. If you have a look at the precipitation spikes on the bottom of the chart here, not very many precipitation spikes coming up. Pretty much dry to the middle of the month. Anyway, it's the 15th. Could get some showers coming through around the 14th or 15th over the weekend. Just as a weak cold front drops southwards, but I think that's going to be pretty weak. Probably won't produce too much. And then beyond that, actually not many precipitation spikes either. So that's one of the driest ensembles that we've had for quite a while. The precipitation spikes, rainfall spikes, do start to come back as we get towards around the 23rd, 24th of June here, but they're in the minority even then. Largely dry and pretty warm weather coming up if the GFS is to be believed. Here's the temperature anomaly for the next week. It's going to take us from the 10th to the 18th of June, and we see that we're going to be a bit above average, actually. Not surprising. You have a look at that temperature ensemble, that's above average, so you would expect the temperature anomaly to be coming out above average. And yeah, we're around a degree, 2 degrees above where we should be. Quite a warm middle part of June coming up. The rainfall anomaly as well, precipitation anomaly, is showing that we're generally driving average. We're in these red colours particularly in the south of the country, nearer normal further north. As you expect, the jet stream is running through to the north of Scotland, so nearer normal there. But generally, yeah, we're going to be in for a warmer, drier than average period through this middle part of June, taking us from the 10th to the 18th. So pretty good weather coming up. Here's how the generic charts are showing all of this. This is the GFS, first of all, for Monday, next Monday, the 16th of June. High pressure is in nicely there across the country at 1,030 millibars, right over the top of the British Isles. Now, the latest one, the 6 o'clock, does take that high pressure then and start to shift it up towards Greenland. So it starts to take it out to the west and the northwest of the country. That is what the ECMWF is indicating could happen. But the GFS doesn't really make much of it, and actually the high pressure begins to sink back down again. So we don't really start to pull in those cooler northerly, northeasterly winds. Although we're not far from it, there is the trough there over Scandinavia setting up. So we're not far from pulling in cooler, more unsettled winds from the northwest. And here's how we end up on day 10, Friday the 20th of June, with the high pressure then sinking back over the top of the country. So if that's right, we keep it largely dry through next week, probably starting off quite warm, maybe turning a little bit cooler, but not cold by any means. And then eventually the high pressure probably sinks back down over the country later on next week. Never really hooks in that northerly to northeasterly flow that is implied could happen, but it doesn't really come off on this run. And basically it's just a settled run with temperatures sort of going a little bit above average to start off the week next week, and then maybe going a little bit cooler around the middle of the week. Here's the ECMWF. The high pressure again is dominant through the start of next week. This is a week's time, Tuesday the 17th of June. The high pressure is dominant just to the west and the northwest of the country. It's always perhaps a little bit more prone to showery winds in the north and the northeast. As we run through the chart, we see we take that high pressure eventually and move it up towards Greenland. We saw it on the height anomaly chart, that high pressure going out towards the northwest. There's those areas of low pressure that I talked about could start to ride in underneath that high pressure, and that's actually what happens by the time we get through to day 10, Friday the 20th. We do start to move those areas of low pressure in off the Atlantic, riding it underneath the high pressure that's setting up over Greenland. We've got to watch out for that. If the high pressure goes too far northwest, the GFS doesn't do it. It takes the high pressure to the northwest, but it doesn't do it. It eventually sinks high pressure back down over us. But if we take these areas of high pressure too far to the north and the northwest, we're going to start to attack, or start to allow these areas of low pressure to attack underneath it off the Atlantic. That's exactly what the ECMWF does this morning. You remember yesterday I showed you the Beijing Climate Centre update, which showed this sort of scenario setting up for the end of June. So again, quite where this is going as we get to the latter stages of June, it's hard to say, because if that high pressure goes far enough to the northwest, we're going to eventually start to open the door to the Atlantic to come in underneath it. But as it goes, in terms of the 8 to 10 day video, it's not too bad. I think we're going to have a pretty good week next week. It'll be mainly dry through most of the week. Not sure about the temperatures. It's probably going to start off quite warm, but it could turn a little bit cooler through the middle of the week if we need to get those northerly to northeasterly winds coming in. And then as we get towards day 10, around the 20th, somewhere around there, we've got to be watching out for whether we begin to open the door to the Atlantic. But overall, a pretty good week coming up next week. Again, it's turning out to be a very reasonable June indeed. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. 5 day forecast, so come back. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.